The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today.
The two theories would be the simpler. The simpler, most obvious theory is that there's something she knows that's about to come out. That's the only reason why one would do that. But it is precious strange. It kind of reminds me of. You remember the movie?
At first, it looked like just another polished power couple headline. But then, George Conway dropped something that completely flipped the conversation. Almost instantly, Donald Trump reacted with visible anger, and the situation escalated fast. The internet got messy, and Melania's carefully maintained image started to look unstable. Whatever Conway revealed clearly hit a nerve.
New York Times, AP, no one understands why Melania Trump did a direct-to-camera. It wasn't like someone just yelled a question out. She did a direct-to-camera prepared speech about Jeffrey Epstein and how she never knew him, and that
I did not know him.
Right, she never knew him, that she met him once because of Donald, and the email she sent to Ghislaine Maxwell was all innocent. And then at the end, she called for justice for the victims, and Congress should hear the women. And I'm like, you're going to get fired as First Lady. That's what Pam...
George Conway entered the discussion with full confidence, like someone ready with receipts and no intention of holding back. Then, suddenly, Melania Trump appeared in a direct-to-camera message involving Jeffrey Epstein, shifting everything in a very unexpected direction.
They did that in order to distract from a sex scandal involving the president they knew was going to come out. So they send somebody to the podium in the White House press room to say, "We deny categorically the rumors that we are going to war with Albania." And the press is like, what? Wait, what? Albania? Who's talking about Albania? And then all of a sudden they say, there must be something going on with Albania. And so they go off investigating the story and reporting. Sources say there is some issue with Albania, and they distract from the sex scandal. And so
Donald Trump was reportedly furious, reacting like someone pushed far past his limit. People watching were left confused, wondering who even planned this twist. It felt less like real politics and more like a chaotic TV season nobody remembers signing up for.
It's surprising that the ostensible winner, or the person who would award himself the Nobel Peace Prize, would criticize the Pope for advocating peace. I just want to let that irony sit there for a moment, and that's one of the many ironies.
That was a brand he was experimenting with earlier in his presidency.
So we're no longer the president of peace. We've decided to become the president of I will annihilate.
Melania speaking publicly about Epstein in a carefully structured video wasn't on anyone's expectations list. The media paused. Viewers paused. Even analysts who usually decode political chaos seemed unsure how to process it.
Or Trump knew about all of this emails?
Well, my favorite email was the one I first saw this morning. Not favorite, but it's the one that sort of it was like a smoking gun. The closest thing to a smoking gun without pictures, although I did see an email later talking about there are pictures.
Yeah.
Was the one that said, Trump is the dog that didn't bite. Because basically he had not been the subject of the investigation, and then Epstein is saying,
right, didn't bark.
Talking about didn't bite, bark. Okay, sorry.
He's like, I do not bite.
So, and that says it to
George Conway observed the entire situation with clear skepticism. He didn't trust the timing, the tone, or the presentation. According to him, the real question wasn't what was said, but why it was said now. In politics, timing often tells a story louder than words.
Of 2026.
He's right on schedule. Everything that we talked about in 2024 about how irrational and how dangerous he was is coming to fruition. And one of the things that I always worried about was the possibility that he could blunder himself or egotistically draw himself into a war, because in the second term, he doesn't have the...
Conway floated two major theories that instantly sparked debate. One suggested this could be preparation for something bigger about to surface. The other pointed toward a distraction strategy, shifting attention away from something else developing behind the scenes.
Basically, but he was in my house with so and so. It turns out to be Virginia Giuffre, maybe?
Yeah, it's got to be Virginia.
We don't know, but one of the young girls.
Because it says, and they got her from Mar-a-Lago, which is Virginia Giuffre.
Just only her?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean that's what it implies that that's who they're talking
anyway,
about. Yeah.
he was alone. He was in Epstein's house with a girl.
Yeah.
Name redacted, and then Ghislaine says, "Yeah, I was thinking about that."
While people debated motives, Conway widened his criticism of Trump's political environment, describing a system where chaos replaces structure and every controversy turns into a distraction tool. In his view, institutions no longer function as safeguards, but as political props.
Obviously, he is much less attached or much less beholden to arguments that what he is doing contravenes public opinion. I mean, he cares less precisely because he doesn't think he ever has to run for re-election again, whether or not he serves. He may think he may serve until he dies, how many years from now, whether that be less than 3 years or more than 3 years. He doesn't care about.
He also used strong language to describe Trump's leadership style, calling it unstable and driven more by impulse than structure. He argued that early in Trump's presidency, there were still some internal checks, but those barriers have now weakened significantly.
One of the things you can't do with Donald Trump is just assume he's going to away. That's what Garland did. That's what, frankly, Joe Biden did. They just assumed, after January 6th, he's going to go away. These psychos, malignant narcissists, narcissistic sociopaths, I've been writing about this here. These demented, deranged, personality disordered people do not go away. They don't. You have to make them go away.
Conway believes Trump doesn't treat truth as fixed. Instead, it shifts depending on convenience, support when useful, denial when needed. From that perspective, even public statements become strategic moves rather than genuine clarification.
I said this morning that this is like, remember how Ben Bradley, the man who used to be the managing editor or something of the Washington Post back in the day in the Watergate days, he would always tell his reporters, we need holy shit stories, the stories that make you read and open the paper and say holy shit. This is a holy shit story of a different sort. This is a holy shit times 1,000 story, but it's also not surprising.
No. Exactly.
Because we know who Donald Trump is.
He also criticized the broader Republican Party, arguing it has moved away from traditional principles and into a system driven by loyalty tests, conflict, and constant attention cycles. In that environment, controversy often matters more than policy.
And who never actually did, except to the extent that he understood that if he wasn't reelected in 2020 and if he wasn't elected in 2024, he stood the possible chance of being prosecuted for his crimes. Now he doesn't fear that because he either he feels that he's gonna prevail with or without an election, and also he's just in a we've talked about his megalomania, his narcissistic personality.
Supporters argue critics overinterpret everything, while critics believe repeated patterns naturally create suspicion. Either way, every new controversy pulls attention instantly, and reactions often become louder than the original issue itself.
Want to work for the Trump administration? First of all, it's very, very difficult for starters to be evil enough, and depraved enough, and corrupt enough, and grifting enough for Donald Trump. Even, these people were not all that competent, the Lindsay Halligans of the world, and Pam Bondi was actually a prosecutor, as you said, but no amount of competence combined with sufficient depravity can bring these prosecutions. They just don't work. But Donald Trump doesn't care about that because he's detached from reality. He's deranged.
The Melania episode becomes symbolic in this cycle. Controlled messaging entering a highly volatile environment. Each new development feels unpredictable, yet somehow familiar, like another episode in a long-running political series.
Now we're blockading a blockade,
Which explain that to me. We're blockading a blockade. A few weeks ago, we were saying, oh, we need to let the Iranians sell oil so that it reduces pressure on the markets. And now we're saying, no, you can't sell that oil. And we're saying a few weeks ago, oh, we want to open the strait. Oh, we don't care whether the strait's being open. Now we're saying we're going to close the strait.
It's going to open up organically. Isn't that what he said? Naturally.
I mean, he said we didn't care about it. He said it was on NATO, the people who depend on that oil.
Conway continues positioning himself as a persistent critic, framing Trump not as a strategic leader, but as someone driven by impulse and performance. The ongoing clash is less about isolated events and more about who gets to define reality in modern politics.